Hello and welcome. This is Digitally. I'm here with Emily Glassberg Sands, and Emily comes to us with deep experience in data and data sciences. She's been at Coursera for the last 7 years. Coursera, as you know, is an online education platform, leader in its space, and you can imagine how important data and decision sciences are to that product and its strategy. Emily ran data sciences for Coursera, and she's now transitioning into a new role at Stripe. Stripe, you'll know, as is a leader in the online payment processing space, and they serve e-commerce and internet businesses across the globe. And you can imagine the role of data and decision sciences there. Emily is going to go on and run data sciences for Stripe. We're super happy to have her here today, not only because of that, she's got an amazing background in data and decision sciences. She earned her PhD in economics from Harvard University and started studying the role of individual decision-making and societal changes that come through on the back of that. She's also an avid, strong, very involved supporter of inclusion and diversity in STEM. And I'm super excited to have her here for a great conversation. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Great to be here.
Awesome. And thank you for doing this. I know you're taking a little break between your last role and your new role, and I appreciate you making the time for us. Emily, I want to start with something I hear consistently from CEOs, CIOs, CXOs across large corporations, and that is data today ends up being the largest driver of transformative value. Why is that?
Yeah, it's been incredible to see really the trajectory over the last several years, so many companies coming forward and working to transform into data-first organizations. And I think, to your point, it's ultimately because they know that being data first can help them build a better and more profitable and more defensible business. And, looking across companies and looking across industries, there are really three big opportunities that stand out, or three key levers to drive those business outcomes through data. The first is around decision science. And I think this is some of the less sexy work within data science and sometimes goes unnoticed behind the scenes, but this is about using data to make better decisions faster. So we've all seen how data can provide a common language. It's a common optimization function for an organization. And that really resulting alignment supports high quality decisions at every level. Those decisions can be fully automated or they can be human made. So, an example I love from Coursera is our event-based LTV model. We use machine learning to understand the long run impact to the business of each of a range of actions the user can take with us. And that model is built into our experimentation platform. It's used to optimize the site, but it's also part of how leadership manages the business at the macro level, informs company-wide decision-making. So I think, really that data science opportunity and decision science is huge. The second big opportunity, which I think gets a little bit more play, is using data to drive revenue growth. And sure, some companies sell their data, but much more often this is about finding customers more efficiently and delighting them with digital experiences. So we see a ton of this in marketing and personalized discovery, but it extends well beyond. So I think, a lot of companies are thinking about what are the smart products, the smart services that I can provide because of the unique data that I have. And sometimes these sort of data products, as I call them, are monetized directly. So you can think of something like Stripe Radar, right? It uses machine learning to fight fraud and businesses are charged for that service. But other times these data products are actually bundled in as part of the core experience. So for example, at Coursera, in-course help uses machine learning to help learners succeed in the learning experience. And it makes that experience more differentiated relative to the competition. So that's really using data science to drive revenue growth. And then the third big opportunity is just using data to improve margins. So how can you deliver your services with higher quality and lower cost by applying data science and machine learning across supply chain and servicing and inventory management and more, depending on your industry. And this can range from, fully automated applications. You can think of support tickets that come in, right? You can automatically resolve those. You can have a fully automated chatbot. But there are also a lot of human in the loop systems where you're, for example, automating the tagging of support tickets or suggesting responses that accelerate customer support agents. So again, it's really that decision science, driving revenue growth and improving margins that I think are the three big buckets of opportunity. And many of the most successful organizations are obviously coming at the data opportunity from all three angles in parallel.
Emily, those examples are fantastic, and so many of us can actually relate to it. And I love your point about it's both about revenue growth and about operating margins. And I think you said it, but the other piece of it is just building a sustainable business for the long run and using the analytics to be able to drive that. So that's fantastic. So listen, I know you gave the Coursera example, and I look to my audience, and many of us did not start with a born-in-cloud company. In other words, many of my colleagues run large corporations that are mainstream corporations that have been around for a time. We have a lot of data, but it's sitting in unstructured files and other places. So if we were to look to you and get advice on how to get started, like what are the building blocks? What is step 1, step 2, step 3? How do we get started on data science and building data literacy and a data foundation for the companies we're at?
Yeah, you make a great point that is totally consistent with what I hear when I'm out in the field talking to companies, CDOs, CTOs, CIOs. They're all investing in becoming data first, but there's actually sort of a disconnect or a huge missed opportunity where it's sort of the biggest companies with the most data and therefore in theory the most potential data advantage who are often doing the least with it. Often they're in brick and mortar industries, and as you note, they don't have all of the people or foundations in place. And kind of at the most macro level, when I talk to CDOs at those organizations, they highlight 3 core challenges and sort of a corresponding set of potential solutions on the path. So, the challenges are strikingly consistent. Could be a CDO in a pharma company in North America, or of a telco, or in Europe, or professional services firm in Asia. But I think the big blockers they cite are talent blockers, right? Like, I don't have the right people in-house. I can't hire fast enough. The best folks are hard to retain. Platform blockers. So I think of this as kind of all of the infra and tooling that enables efficient use of data, right? So yes, the centralized data lake, but also the self-serve analytical tooling and the machine learning platform and the pre and post modeling workflows. And then the third, which is a little bit squishier, but super important, is culture. So I hear blockers in how the company operates, in its norms and processes, and whether sort of data is naturally infused across decision-making and products and services. A data leader at a cable company recently said to me, I'm like leading this cultural transformation within our company, and it's exhausting. And so, I think different companies start with different ones of those 3 challenges. Many, again, come at it more holistically. I think on talent, there are 2 core solutions. There's a reskilling and an upskilling solution. So, demand for data scientists is growing. It's growing, I think, more than 37% year over year, according to LinkedIn. It also is the role for which recs are open longest, right? So data-related roles tend to be open about 45 days longer. And so companies are looking at internal talent and saying, who from my organization could I reskill into these hard-to-fill data roles? And, great examples are which of my software engineers have the foundational math to be able to transition to machine learning engineers, but there are other variants, like which of my FP&A analysts might be able to transition over to data analytics, or which of my paid marketers might be able to transition over to marketing analytics. And then on upskilling, this is really about, hey, I need my people to work in open source languages. I need to train them in R and Python. I need them to be able to work not just with numerical data, but also with textual data. And so learn new methods like NLP or computer vision. And then third, I need them to be able to operate in this sort of cloud environment. And that really brings me to the second challenge and opportunity, which is the platform ecosystem. The platform providers have come so far. I remember when I started at Coursera 7.5 years ago, everything we built basically was homegrown because there was a paucity of outside options. And today, these data platforms are reliable, they're flexible, they're resource saving, but employees who are used to working on-prem or homegrown solutions really need training to ramp. And so as I think about the platform opportunity, I really think about kind of a Maslow-esque hierarchy of data. Sure, we all want to be doing AI and ML at the top, but what are the foundations that build to that? What's the data infrastructure? Right, so the right architecture and tooling to collect and store and deploy data efficiently. What's the data processing mechanism? So for managing data efficiently and at scale, how do we do analytics, including scaled self-serve analytics? And a lot of that sort of infra and data processing and even analytics these days can be partly or fully bought with third-party or cloud-based solutions, AWS and GCP and Databricks and Looker, and there's obviously a whole skew. And then finally on culture, I think just very briefly, all too many companies struggle with adopting the goodness of those talented teams or that infrastructure if people, including all the way at the top, don't understand the data opportunity. And so I've seen time and again that sort of this is about leading a cultural transformation. It's about bringing the broader company along. And data literacy will look different in different organizations. But I think ultimately it's about non-data folks being able to speak data, knowing enough to ask the right questions, to interpret data, to use data to tell a story, and to be able to start to think about and partner with technical teams to design data-powered solutions.
It's fantastic. You went through 3 really key building blocks. And I think everything you said about talent is so important. And I might add to that, and I think you mentioned it, I might add to that, Emily, that one of the things we're saying is it's not about just getting more people into data science. It's about actually finding the intersection of data science with finance, with supply chain, with sourcing and procurement, with financial crimes, and being able to understand the domain and the machine learning and the data science is where actually the value really comes. And I think that's such an important point on talent. I loved your point on culture, and I've been told by many that have been successful at it that it has to be a top-down, bottoms-up, ingrained culture of data literacy, data fluency. And then I love the way you drew that quick pyramid for us visually. And if I recall this correctly, and help me, the bottom layer you called out was the data infrastructure layer. And then you have a layer of data engineering, and a layer of analytics, and a layer of modeling, statistical modeling, and then a layer of machine learning. And you talked about it as a pyramid. And so being very thoughtful about how you structure and build those layers in the right proportions is an important part, isn't it?
Absolutely. It absolutely is. And I think there's something really shiny about the top of the pyramid, and there's something really crucial about those solid foundations. So just making sure we're not putting the cart before the horse is super important.
I don't think you and I have discussed this, but many times I've either made this comment or heard the comment, which is when you actually look at AI or ML projects, the actual ML code is only 10% of the overall engineered effort. And the bulk of the work actually goes in instrumenting and engineering the systems around it. And I think is consistent with what you just said. Well, listen, we've covered a lot. We'd love to keep you longer, but we don't want to let you go till we have 1 or 2 more thoughts. What is it that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the closing item I just leave everyone with is really that the time is now. And, I think in all 3 of the areas we talked about, decision science, driving revenue growth, improving margins, the opportunity has been increasing. It's been increasing steadily over time for all of the reasons that the world is talking about: increases in data storage and in compute power and in the quality and efficiency of data related platforms and services. But I think there's actually a more critical shift, a more fast and near-term shift, a sort of step function change that's happened in the past year or 2, and that is COVID. So with the current pandemic, more of our customer experiences are being digitized. More of our employee workflows are being digitized. And that correspondingly means there's way more and way richer data being collected. And in turn, just so much more opportunity to harness our organization's data to build a better business. So there's more of an imperative to make those digital experiences for both customers and employees compelling. But there's also so much more opportunity because of the data that's being harnessed in those digital environments. And so I'm really excited to see where the next few years take us. I think COVID has set us forward pretty dramatically in the impact that data can and will have on businesses across industries. And there are fantastic foundations in place to allow companies to leverage that opportunity. So kind of sky's the limit, and I'm excited to see where companies take things.
Super inspiring thought to leave us with. I turn to my audience and say this: if you haven't already started the journey on data science, you are late. It is happening now, it's happening at speed, and it's driving value across the spectrum. Emily, thank you for taking the time, sharing your thoughts with us. I'm gonna ask you to stay linked in with us and therefore with our community. And if there's a few questions that come up, I'd love to actually get your thoughts on that as well. And with that, again, thank you, I appreciate it. And to my audience, thanks for tuning in. Take care, goodbye.